Today on the Unofficial Shopify Podcast, I want to talk about a Shopify app that I don't see being discussed as often as I think they should, given the impact they could be having on both your bottom line and potentially the environment. Yes, today is a sustainability episode. I have worked in e-commerce most of my adult life, and there is the undeniable reality that every time we are successful in fulfilling an order, there is a carbon footprint to that. But there are solutions to help offset that. I was able to connect with a gentleman at Shopify who leads sustainability operations and who's going to talk us through it. David Vranicar joins us to tell us about it. We're talking about Shopify Planet. How long has this been around? When did it launch?
Shopify Planet launched in the middle of 2022.
Okay.
So when it went live, the first order of business was migrating over folks who had been using Offset, which was a predecessor to Planet. Planet was a big upgrade on Offset. So, and then from there, we've just been growing the app. Every which way that we can, getting plus users, basic users. We're across all geos, all verticals. Anybody selling, anything under the sun is eligible it's compatible with Planet. So we're definitely happy to welcome in merchants from any vertical.
And so tell me, how did you come to be responsible for Shopify Planet? What is your role here?
Yeah, so I did not start at Shopify in sustainability. My first gig at Shopify was with Oberlo, the dropshipping app.
Software.
Yeah, exactly. So Shopify acquired that in 2017, and that was my entry point into Shopify. Then in the meantime, outside of Shopify, I was getting more and more interested in climate and sustainability topics. Reading books and listening to podcasts. So this was kind of becoming a bigger and bigger piece of my mind share outside of work.
What sparked your interest in sustainability?
My wife is probably owed some credit here. She works for WWF, World Wildlife Fund. So I'm sure that's part of it. And then I also I find climate change and the science, a lot of the science is over my head, I'll concede, but I find the science of it all just really fascinating, in a very visceral way. I was just really intrigued with it, and just was lopping up anything I could get my hands on, after work, listening to podcasts while I jogged or, read books at night or whatever. And so Shopify had a sustainability team that was growing back in 2021. And I thought, hey, if I could stay at Shopify, which is an awesome place to work, so much cool stuff that we get to do, so many incredible brands we get to work with. If I could keep doing that and add sustainability to the fold, that would really be the best of both worlds. So I was lucky enough to get the gig, and so I've been with the sustainability crew now at Shopify for the last 3 or so years.
And as Shopify's sustainability team, what's your day to day? What are you doing as part of that team? Is it managing this Shopify Planet app?
Where I spend most of my energy is with Planet, and trying to give merchants tools to do what maybe historically only big companies with big sustainability teams could do. A lot of the vision around Planet is, let's be the sustainability team for the merchants. Or if a merchant already has a sustainability team, let's be a valuable tool in that toolkit. So really trying to level the playing field when it comes to sustainability, making sure that any brand that's on Shopify that cares about this has avenues to take action.
So Shopify Planet's been around close to 3 years now, and when it launched, is it the same? Has it evolved? What's changed?
I mean, that core mission of being the sustainability team for merchants, that hasn't changed. And so the way Planet works is there are certain data points that we have that are fed into an emissions estimate formula. So we know, based on the customer's address, based on the merchant's address or the merchant's warehouse address, the shipping method, the product weight, there's all these variables that get plugged into the system. And we know roughly the emissions that are going to be generated by that delivery. Let us do this emissions estimate for you. And then on top of that, let us go ahead and get the carbon credits to offset the emissions that you've generated. So we don't want merchants to be spinning their wheels, contacting carbon removal providers or trying to negotiate prices on carbon credits. We'll do that too. I mean, that's something that we're happy to handle as well. So really, like, that hasn't changed. We wanted to reduce the barrier to entry to do cool stuff in climate, be the sustainability team for our merchants, and that's something that we feel we've done. Where the evolution has come, I think, is with the ways that we enable our merchants to make noise about what they're doing. Because we certainly don't want folks to use Planet, in silence. If they want to, they can. But there's a lot of tools that we give them to make sure that any shoppers or any customers that come by know about this climate commitment. So there's a badge, for example, that's been iterated on since the moment it launched. The predecessor for Planet that I mentioned, Offset, had no badge. So when we launched Planet, we knew we needed a badge. We were really excited about our badge. It was one of those things that we didn't know how much work we had to do until we thought we were done. So we launched it, got all this feedback about how, hey, we need to customize this. Hey, like, this font doesn't match my theme. I want to customize this text, etc. So we've just constantly working on the badge, constantly improving that.
I'm looking at it. It's more than a badge. It's like a dynamic banner. It says carbon neutral shipping on all orders powered by Shopify Planet. And it'll tell you how many in weight shipping emissions are removed, what it funds, and then has like a link to more info, right?
Yeah. Yes.
That's cool. Like, I think when you say badge really undersells what you built here.
That's all stuff that we got from merchants. Like, our ears are open on what they want. And so, yeah, like the equivalencies, for example, where, hey, our stores emitted this much carbon and we've removed it. That's equivalent to, X miles of a gasoline powered car driven or X number of smartphone charges, or whatever. I mean, that's really powerful stuff. And we're thrilled to have gotten that feedback. And so we can incorporate that into the product. And then in addition to the badge or the widget or the dynamic banner, we also have, assets that merchants can use just to do straight up marketing of their efforts. And so we have images of the companies that do the carbon removal for Planet users. And then in Q4 of last year, we launched a modal so that if that learn more link or more info link that you just mentioned, if a merchant wants, that can trigger an overlay that will displays a video, displays images, displays stats, where a customer can consume all that right on the page without getting kicked to a new tab or sent to a different page. So that's these sort of things are where a lot of the evolution has come with saying, hey, this static badge that said powered by Shopify wasn't enough, so we added all the bells and whistles that you just mentioned. The Planet logo wasn't enough, so we added all these marketing assets. The impact page wasn't enough, so we did the modal and videos, and really always trying to make sure that our merchants can communicate what they're doing however they want to.
It sounds to me like this is all to battle greenwashing. What I don't understand or see is how it works, right? It's an app. How does an app remove emissions?
There's a few different ways that the carbon emitted from a shipment gets removed. And so part of that happens through what are called nature-based solutions. And nature-based solutions are methods to accelerate carbon sequestration that's happening naturally. So you see this with forests, for example, where replanting a forest, of course, take carbon out of the air, and we want more forests and denser forests and protected forests. And so that's an example of a nature-based solution. Soil sequestrations, another example where there's a lot of carbon that's stored underground, like underneath grass and roots, and with regenerative agriculture practices, there's a lot of ways to accelerate the rate at which soil can hold and keep carbon out of the atmosphere. And so that's part of it. So we have the emissions estimate from the shipment, and then we would take either a sliver of revenue from that order, or if the merchant wants to, they can have their customer foot the bill for the carbon they're shipping, or they can combine those two, where it's the merchant's paying and the customer's adding yet additional funding. Whatever the variation is, we would take the money that's generated by Planet and then go buy carbon credits from from a company that's doing, for example, nature-based carbon removal. So some of it is happening via these natural processes. And then depending on your subscription plan, you might also be funding what's called engineered carbon removal. And engineered carbon removal is, as the name suggests, it's technological. For example, there's a company up in Iceland that we work with, Climeworks, that provides carbon credits for Planet users. They have just huge facilities with massive fans that spun carbon out of the sky, and then it's buried directly into Icelandic, and it's stayed in that rock for the next 1,000+ years. Another company that works with Planet is 4401. That their facilities are based in Oman, where there's a very specific type of rock that is perfect for storing carbon. And so they're taking carbon that's been captured and then blasting it into this rock where it's going to stay for the next 1,000 or 10,000 years. And so the methods of carbon removal are varied. I mean, we want to, we're like a shots on goal sort of mentality here. We think all these solutions need to scale. The bio oil, the direct air capture happening up in Iceland, the soil sequestration, the reforestation, it all needs to work. It all needs to grow. And so we're using Planet as a way to let Shopify merchants and their customers catalyze this innovation that's happening in all these different verticals.
So essentially, as a merchant or customer, I opt into Shopify Planet. That generates revenue that goes into a fund that is earmarked for investment in these carbon removable, sustainable technologies and initiatives, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And then we spread that like a portfolio. We don't just hedge our bet on a single thing. We spread that across a variety of initiatives.
In a way, it's simple. We have this emissions total, and then we go get a corresponding amount of credits.
I assume there is a step to verify that these folks do what they say they're going to do.
Yeah, for sure. So part of that happens before a partner would join Planet. So we vet these companies. As I mentioned, we work with them ourselves to neutralize our corporate footprint. So they've been scrutinized, before they've ever gotten close to Planet. And then once one of these carbon removal partners is in Planet, and we're allocating merchants and merchant customer money to them, definitely there needs to be verification happening. And so we have within the app, there's links to what are called registries, where the Planet associated credits have been retired. And so you can just say, okay, this bundle of credits came from Grassroots Carbon, which does soil sequestration. Then you can go look at the registry where those specific credits have been retired.
If I want to use Shopify Planet, who pays for it? What does it cost?
So there are different options here. So if you don't want to pay for it as a merchant, you could use it and not pay anything. And in that case, you'd be outsourcing the cost to your customer. And so the way that works is you select the customer pays plan, and then you the badge that you have for that particular subscription plan contains a checkbox where it says whatever you want to say, but the default is neutralize carbon emissions for this order. Customer clicks that, they're going to pay 25 cents USD or 50 cents USD. We're testing that quantity right now, but they'll pay 50 cents or less, and then the carbon removal will happen with that money, and so that will be billed at the end of the billing cycle, just like any app billing, but it wouldn't be anything coming out of pocket from the merchant. It's all these additional payments that have come from the customer. So it is possible to use Planet and to neutralize emissions for those orders without paying anything. If a merchant wants to pay, there's different subscription plans for that. The decade plan, for example, costs an average of 3.5 to 4 cents per order. Now, if a merchant sells like bowling balls, or rocks, or something, then it'll be a little bit higher because the weight of a product.
You sell barbells.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's a little bit heftier because weight's one of the variables that informs how much carbon gets emitted. But anyway, Shopify wide average is like 3.5-4 cents per order. And then we would just keep track of the estimated emissions from all those orders. And then at the end of each billing cycle, just extract whatever amount is needed to cover those emissions. And then you can pay more with the Century or Millennium plans to also fund the engineered solutions that we talked about. So with the Decade plan, you're funding the nature-based solutions, the forestry, the soil sequestration, those sort of natural processes. And then with the other subscription plans, the Century and the Millennium, which cost an average of 8 and 15 cents per order, respectively, between those two, you're going to be funding the nature-based solutions as well as the engineered credits that do the wilder stuff, the bio oil, the direct air capture, and all that. So the nature-based solution is important to all these subscription plans because that's how we can get the carbon removed today. And there's a lot of future-facing technologies that are not at scale yet, and that's where any money on top of the nature-based credits is getting allocated. So you can simultaneously, with a straight face, say, hey, this is a carbon neutral shipment because we've got the credit for this project that's already up and running today. And in addition, we have funded carbon removal that's going to be coming online in the next few years with these engineered solutions.
How difficult is this to set up?
You install from the App Store just like any other app, and then you pick your plan. So you say, I want to pay, or I want my customers to pay, or we're both going to pay. We're going to be in this together. And once you make that choice and hit save, then it's live. At that point, the emissions estimates are going to be running, and like the infrastructure is set up. So yeah, at that point you're up and running, and then you would want to keep going though. I would say to do like the badge to maybe leverage these marketing assets, and then so there's there's additional steps to take, but that's just a matter of using the online store editor and placing your badge and and inserting it where you want to. To get up and running is really super simple. It's probably like a 90-second endeavor, and then of course there's the details where you want to make sure that the wording is correct, that the placement's correct, with the badge and all of that. So it's not nothing, but it is legitimately simple. There's not data input that you have to do. There's not.
It's not technical. It's
not technical.
I'm using the theme editor. I'm not editing code. I'm not doing some technical setup. I'm not messing with API keys. I plug it in and then configure it the way I want. It sounds like it's quite configurable and dynamic in its displays. What impact does this have for a merchant for store? Does this change conversions?
We have data that shows a conversion uplift for merchants who have installed Planet, like a before-after conversion uplift. We did a survey ourselves, a consumer survey, that showed that 40+% of consumers are more likely to buy from brands that have sustainability practices like carbon neutral shipping. There was also a PricewaterhouseCoopers voice of the consumer survey that came out last year. Pretty exhaustive surveys, very interesting. And one of the stats in there that I thought was very cool was that consumers are willing to spend 9.7% more for products that are sustainable. We are seeing a conversion increase for brands that have this installed, as are other apps in this space. You see it if you just browse the different apps that do, plant trees or this or that. They all talk about, plus 16% conversion rate, plus 21% average cart value, et cetera. And so that's a real thing that we're seeing in the kind of anecdotal survey, but then also with the data bearing that out, which is really cool.
There is a positive halo effect on the sales funnel that's added by Shopify Planet and potentially similar solutions.
Yes. Yeah, there is. And then there's also stuff that I would suspect is happening outside of the measurable funnel. That's also good. If you extend the halo, because I think you asked or is it just something that people do to feel good versus an actual conversion increase? There is the conversion element, but then feeling good's great too. And I think if a buyer is kind of satisfied with their purchase, maybe they're more likely to write a review if you hit them up for a review later, or they're more likely to refer you, and or to refer
potentially
a friend.
More word of mouth from this initiative is what we're thinking.
Yeah, which is something that we're not able to cleanly measure. And so
Right.
I think that the data shows that there is an uplift, and even outside of what we see in the data, I think there's the potential for knock-on effects, especially if it's aggressively, not aggressively, but let's say assertively marketed by the merchant who's using the app. You put it in your order confirmation. You can put something in the package that you're sending. Say that it's shipped carbon neutral. You get stickers that say this, slap one on the box. I think there's a lot of ways where, okay, you have the app installed and you put the widget on the product page. Like that's good, but there's a lot of additional steps that you could take to really milk what you're doing. Not in a nefarious way. Like this, it's like I said, there's no wink thing going on here. It's you're doing something good. And you want to make noise about it.
Yeah, and you cite your sources and bring receipts. I mean, that
exactly.
is what is so attractive about this.
And that's anyway. and that's something where we are happy to be the one standing behind these claims. If a merchant wants to enlist Shopify here and say, hey, like this massive software companies is the one running this, feel free. I think a lot of merchants don't want us involved because they want to make sure that they get the credit, which is also like everything's dynamic, so you can use it however you want. But if there's any sense that enlisting our name or your name dropping Shopify would be beneficial to kind of make it more trustworthy, then by all means.
Let me play devil's advocate. I've suggested this to a few clients. I'm like, hey, you should consider this. Maybe you want to try it, maybe run it for a month. Let's see what it does. If it has any positive impact or feedback. And so people will say, well, I don't know if my customers care. And that always frustrates me because, well, you're right. We don't know if they care because you haven't tried it. So what's the harm in trying it? But what would you say to that?
I mean, one thing that comes to mind is they probably don't mind it. I wouldn't see a big objection. And so I think that there's ways to kind of very safely like tiptoe into these waters if you're queasy about it. And like if you're concerned about the paying too much, then you could say, okay, let's have the customer pays option on, or let's set our billing cap kind of low to make sure that everything's nice and tidy on the billing front. But then also just publish the badge and see for yourself. And we have seen like some wild conversion rates on the customer facing option to pay, like conversion rates north of 20% on buyers, customers adding this like roundup to their order, which I mean, I was not expecting 20+% conversion rates there. There was one.
So we're referring to when we let people choose it, when they can opt into it or not. We're saying there are times where 1 in 5 people will say, yes, I'm willing to pay a little more for that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's this sort of thing that's not an in your face, kind of distracting thing on the way to checkout. So I think somebody who doesn't care would they might just gloss over it and say, okay, I'm not doing that. I'm done with this order. Let's get to it. And somebody who does care, they are gonna go ahead and add that extra amount. And there was one store that changed the amount of the customer contribution from 25 cents to $10. It was a luxury item store. So the base cost was higher. And so I think the logic was, hey, 25 cents is almost comically low here. So let's up that.
May as well pricing.
Yeah, exactly. But they 40x'd it to $10, and they still had a 15+% conversion rate on that. So customers willing to spend an extra $10 just for that is, that's kind of like that's something. And it kind of depends on the store, and maybe on the marketing and the sort of shoppers that a brand is trying to attract. Like there's certainly variability there. But I do think it's low risk to try it out. It's something that you can try out for a month or two without really downside, I would say.
I agree with you, and I wish more people would give it a shot. I want to know, in the 3 years that you've been working on this, probably more than that, what's been the biggest hurdle, or what's been challenging about it?
Awareness is one thing. I mean, the App Store is a crowded space.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, it's noisy over there, and nobody goes there looking for carbon or for, I don't know. There are some sustainability searches, but like it's just not the search term that people are dropping into the App Store, and so we do just have a visibility problem where I think there's an acknowledgement that, like, oh, this is interesting, like when folks see it, but there's not it's sometimes tricky to get it in front of the merchant in the first place. And so I think part of it is awareness. And then there's also, an element of needing to meet ever-changing expectations on what the app delivers. A lot of it has to do with what you were talking about earlier in terms of verifying that this is legitimate and making it trustworthy and making it marketable and making it, something that's cool in a very like meaningful way. And that's one, again, we're really happy to take cues from merchants and always eager to get that feedback and make sure that they have, what they feel they need on that front.
What do you think? How do you see it evolving? Right, you really built something quite exceptional in a fairly short time. In the next 5 years, what's it going to look like?
We want to have, the biggest possible impact we can here. And so I think, getting more and more merchants on board and really proving the business value and highlighting the fact that very big brands are doing this. Mr. Beast, for example, uses Planet. A mission that we really do have a lot of plus merchants. Genius Lab Gear, Derek Miller, founder of that, was on your podcast a year or two ago. Like, that's another awesome brand.
He was like, he's like, I love Shopify Planet. I trust but verify. He was like, I looked into it, I researched it, just thrilled with it. And part of it is his audience. He's selling largely to research scientists who, this was important to them.
It's cool having a scientist kind of, give a thumbs up on that. So
yeah, he was like, when are you going to do, he's like, I'll send you the intro. You got to do a Shopify Planet episode.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what, Derek? Deal.
We just want to grow this thing. And, right now, we have had 46 million plus orders covered by Planet. So the carbon emissions from 46 million orders have been removed. And that has equated to more than 34,000 tons of carbon on behalf of Planet users. It's still a relatively small user base. But just to put that in perspective, a mature tree, like a big tree, can absorb about 22 kilograms of carbon per year. And so it would take 1.5 million mature trees to absorb as much carbon as Planet users have offset. So like that's awesome. And
how proud
those sort of numbers.
How proud must you be?
What's that?
I said, how proud must you be?
It's very cool. It's very cool stuff to work on, and getting to do stuff that's impactful on climate within the confines of this awesome company that does all this awesome stuff for merchants and for entrepreneurs.
Let's wrap this up here. We've got in the App Store, any merchant can search for Shopify Planet and install it. Easy to configure, no code, not technical. I choose my options where I could choose to pay, or I can have the customer opt in to pay. Even if that's low risk, where we let the customer pick, and even then we're going to see potentially fairly high opt-in rates. Some stores 15, 20%. depending on the audience and the average order value, it seems. And no risk of being accused of greenwashing with how well documented it is. You've got cite your sources and bring your receipts. And what am I missing? Like, where's the downside?
I'm the wrong person to ask. I drink the Kool-Aid, so I mean, there is a cost if a merchant wants to pay themselves, like that is a cost. And I think one of the ways that I kind of conceive of that or think about that is that it's a form of marketing. Marketing isn't usually free, and this is a form of marketing that can really go a long way in terms of brand affinity and repeat purchases and just, making customers feel good about their purchase. And so I guess that's a downside. I'll concede that paying money is not always eating into margins is not fun, but there's
I think
certainly
there's benefit to it.
There's benefit to it.
It's not measurable in the same way that something where we could get figure out our return on ad spend is.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably what people are getting hung up on, and they shouldn't. Sometimes benefits can be squishy. We don't. Everyone's I got to make data-driven decisions, but realistically, most people aren't making data-driven decisions. Sometimes you can just try things, see what happens. I would, in the case of Shopify Planet, really, I would encourage people to just try it and see what the feedback is, see how many people respond to it, because it's low risk, it's easy to set up, and if you change your mind, it's easy to undo. I mean, I'm just not seeing the issue here. I wish more people would check it out.
Hey, you're not the only one, but yeah, it definitely. It is very low risk. We're definitely happy to answer questions. planet@shopify.com is the email address, so it's an easy one to remember. If there's anything if you install it and you're curious about this or that, or you have questions, like we're happy to wrap, and we love this stuff. So feel free to reach out if you do install it, but for sure, give it a whirl. That's apps.shopify.com/planet. That's the URL. So certainly it's waiting for you, no matter where you are, what language your store is. We love to welcome you on board.
And I'll include those links in the show notes for everybody's convenience. Wow, I gotta go try it. I gotta encourage people to use this thing. David Vranicar, thank you so much.
Thank you, Kurt. Really appreciate the chance to chat.